So this is my first town hall meeting using Zoom. So I apologize if there's any inconveniences. I'm going to go through a short presentation and hopefully you can see my screen now, similar to my chats. And then at the end, we'll pause for questions, which you can submit using your chat feature on Zoom. So if you could submit questions now and throughout the program, and then I'll try to answer those questions at the end. Okay. So here we go. Hopefully you received in your mailboxes a copy of the Phase 2 reopening communication sheet. It tells you a little bit about our Phase 2 reopening, what's coming in on November 4th, which is this Wednesday. Yes, we are continuing to try to reopen. We need everybody's help in trying to make sure that we abide by the precautions and restrictions that we have in place so that we can keep our numbers of COVID down. So we really need you to wear your mask when you're out in public, when you're receiving services in your apartment, and unless you're actively eating in the dining room. Phase 2 for us means that we can increase our staff and resident-led activities to 20 or less. We're having some limited indoor activities for up to 30 in Harris Bell Hall, which we'll sign up for using sign-up sheets. Social distancing and masks must be observed. And we up to 50 for outdoor activities. The Laurel Dining Room will reopen to 50% capacity, which is about 70 people with social distancing in place. Visitation is increased to 2 per day per resident as available, 2 visitors per visit at designated locations. If the weather's nice, those designated locations will be outside. If the weather's not, we'll have designated locations inside, including the private dining room in the Preston and also the marketing conference room in the Windsor building. For now, visiting is restricted between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. through November. We hope to open that up to some evening visitation in December. There are limited service providers being allowed in independent living for residents with appointments set through the resident services office. So that's Robin Aiken's office, and you can call reception and get a hold of her, and she can help schedule those. We're limiting those to 2 per month per resident. Food and Beverage has provided an update, and I apologize. It's just me today. Everyone in Food and Beverage is busy getting ready, so I'll try to answer your questions best I can. The Laurel Dining Room will be reopened November 4th to 50% capacity. This reopening comes with new dining procedures that all residents will be required to follow in order to maintain proper health and safety precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19. When the Laurel reopens, we will still be offering a weekly delivery menu for residents who choose to dine in their homes, just like we're doing today. We're wanting to create a system that is flexible to meet the needs of all of our residents. So, some of you residents that want to come down, every day or every other day, they're able to do that. Or maybe it's just 1 day a week, or maybe you don't want to come down at all until the COVID is over. That's okay too. We'll continue to do that delivery service. We want to encourage residents who would like to get out of their apartments to adopt a blended dining style, meaning that maybe 1 or 2 days a week you come to the dining room and the rest of the days of the week you want to stay in your apartment. That's okay too. What dining will look like in the Laurel. Residents will be required to make a reservation for their dining times. When making a reservation, residents will have the option to make standing reservations for any date and time frame that suits their dining needs. For example, if you like to eat every Thursday at 6 p.m., you would only need to call and make a reservation for that once. You could just tell them that it's a standing reservation. Just make sure you communicate that when you're calling in. In order to ensure that all residents who choose to dine in the Laurel can be served, all reservations will be a 1-hour time frame. Reservations will be canceled if the party doesn't arrive within 15 minutes of their allotted time. We will only be taking reservations for party to a maximum of 4 residents at this time. So no more than 4 residents reservations will be taken per table. Once you have made your reservation, you will come down to the Laurel and you will be required to check in with the host who will go over the rules of dining in the Laurel. To make or modify a reservation, please call 512-600-7331. All residents must wear their mask at all times in the dining room and in all common spaces, in the halls, corridors, and when you're receiving services, unless you're actively eating or drinking in the dining room. This rule will be enforced. So we're asking for the servers and dining room managers to monitor this. All residents will receive a one-time use menu, which will be recycled after each meal. All silverware will be sanitized and pre-rolled, so we won't preset silverware on the table. All glassware will be brought to the table as needed. All salt, pepper, sugar, and other condiments will be brought to the table upon request. All tables and chairs will be thoroughly sanitized between each use. Residents may not join other residents at different tables. So once you're seated in the dining room, you need to remain seated until you're ready to leave. We really can't have you mingling between tables. I know it's difficult when you haven't seen some of your neighbors in a while, but you need to help us maintain social distancing practices. All chairs will be pre-placed and spaced according to adhere to proper socially distance as best we can. So please do not move the chairs. Food and beverage and all of us in the community understand that we're a very social and friendly environment. However, we ask for our residents to be understanding of these requirements and requests and really do our best to abide by the restrictions. Westminster holiday recommendations. We are recommending that you avoid large family gatherings, as are we, doing our best to avoid these. It's just not the season for that on parade this year, with COVID being as active as it is. Alternatives to going off-site to a large family gathering are visiting on Westminster's campus, keeping those visits to an hour or less, and with social distancing practices in place. There's a telephone, the Zoom, FaceTime. Go to a small gathering. Try to limit the numbers if you can. People who should not attend in-person holiday celebrations, according to the CDC, is at increased risk of severe illness from COVID-19, such as seniors. So that's why we're making the recommendations there are. Avoid close contact with people, especially those who are actively sick. And this is a good time, or a good warning anytime, I suppose. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash, then sanitize your hands. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, or sanitize with an approved sanitizer. Wear your mask and practice social distance of at least 6 feet. If overnight stay, travel, or extended family stay, upon return, immediately quarantine an idle apartment. Then you'll be tested within 5 to 7 days, and we will end the quarantine if the test result is negative. If positive, continue to quarantine until we tell you that you can stop. Independent living visitation, just some reminders. Phase 2, you may continue to schedule your visits with reception. Visits may take place in designated locations only, and I spoke about those areas. Visits may take place only in the outside areas that are designated and inside areas that are designated when the weather is not permitting us to visit outside. Social distancing and masks must be worn. Visits are limited to 2 persons for 1 hour, up to 2 visits per day as we're able. So please don't schedule 2 visits or more during the day. Be mindful of your neighbors and their visitation rights as well. Associates will address residents and visitors that are not following protocol. 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. through November are the visitation hours in independent living. 8 a.m. through 4 p.m. Monday through Friday are the visitation hours that are being allowed in healthcare. I hope to increase those hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. beginning in December. But again, it depends on our numbers and how well we're abiding by the precautions that are in place. Visits inside the resident apartment are restricted to essential healthcare providers or caregivers, and then service providers, necessary service providers that have been scheduled in advance with Robin, Barbara, or Rachel. They can come in up to 2 times a month following all precautions, including the questionnaire that they have to answer, the screening process, including the temperature taking, things like that. Visitation outside, spouses, partners, significant others, power of attorneys, family members, they must follow all precautions as well. They must be screened. They need to follow all the precautions, and including wearing a mask when they're on our campus. Important quarantine information I need to pass on, and I think this came out in a memo from Robin, but if you're symptomatic, you will be tested immediately and will quarantine until results come back negative. So, if you have a fever, weakness, fatigue, all of the COVID symptoms, or one of the COVID symptoms, we recommend quarantine until we've had you tested. If you go to the hospital or you have an ER visit, upon your return, you will immediately quarantine in the Isle apartment. And overnight stay, travel, or extended family stays, we recommend and require you to report it to us immediately, and also quarantine in your Isle apartment until you can be tested. And then we can tell you it's okay to move about the campus. If you're notified of being exposed to an individual who has tested positive for COVID-19, immediately quarantine in your apartment and report it to us. And we will test you out within 5 to 7 days from exposure and give you the quarantine results. Outdoor visitation schedule at healthcare, we talked about already, but it is by appointment only, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Visits are limited in healthcare to 45 minutes, one visitor at a time, and social distancing and masks must be worn at all times. All scheduling for visitation in healthcare is done through Jamila Arnold. She's the administrative assistant over there, and the number is 512-600-7340. Please follow all precautions. Wash your hands regularly with soap and water, or clean them with alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain at least 6 feet distance between you and other people. Wear a mask when outside of your home or when visitors are present in your home. Avoid touching your face. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. Stay home if you do not feel well, and avoid large gatherings if possible. So I'm going to start some questions now, start answering some questions. Let's see here. All right, interesting. So I'm going to start off with some questions that I received via email. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see I'm alive in person. Are Laurel reservations required for pickup, carry out? No, you don't have to make reservations. You do have to call the order in, and the order should be ready for pickup within 15 to 20 minutes. Can a resident specify a pickup carry-out time? No, we ask that you call down and create your order within about 15 to 20 minutes of your pickup time. So if you wanted to pick up a meal at 2 o'clock, you would call in your order at 1:40, and you should be okay to pick it up about that time. What is the difference between pickup and carryout? I think those are basically the same, just different words, but the meaning behind them is the same. The November newsletter says the dining room is open at 11, but it says lunch doesn't start until 11:30. What happens in the dining room between 11 and 11:30? So the new phase 2 reopening, I started the lunch hour at 11 o'clock. So the dining room is open from 11 o'clock in the morning until 8 p.m. at night. The last seating in the dining room is 7 p.m. but lunch will be served starting at 11. When will pickup breakfast be available on the weekends? Better yet, when will dine-in breakfast be available? So that's to be determined. We're working on that. A lot of it has to do with the cooks and how delivery goes and the dining room being open. But our intent is we're shooting for having that available sometime in December. So hopefully we'll be able to do dine-in breakfast and also weekend pickup for breakfast as well. How can I walk into the dining room and social distance when tables are close to the aisle like at the private dining room? We will be seating the tables in the dining room by the walls and the windows first, so the aisle last. We would ask that you not go into the dining room unless you are going there to dine or picking up a to-go order or pickup order or carry out. Again, all of those are the same thing, but unless you're going in there to pick up a meal or you're going in there to dine, you really shouldn't be in the dining room, especially during busiest hours, which are probably going to be 11 to 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock are probably the busiest hours. So to help us make sure that everybody's social distancing, please try to avoid the dining room during those hours. Okay, here's a question on the chat today on the town hall meeting. What do the dump trucks do with the dirt they are taking away? They're using it for fill, I'm sure, and just getting it off our campus, but I'm sure they have a designated site to take those things. I'll try to find out where that is, but typically it's used for fill, you know, when a quarry removes the limestone, and a lot of times they have to go back with a fill over the top. They will use the kind of material that we're getting rid of in our Carlisle construction. Next question, please clarify the 15-minute rule. For example, is cancellation effective after 5:45 for a 6 p.m. appointment or at 6:15? From appearance, the pool is going to be inoperable for some long time. When is it likely to reopen? Okay, first question. The 15-minute rule means if you had a reservation at 6 o'clock, and if you're not there by 6:15, then your reservation's essentially canceled and the table could be sat with someone else. That's the 15-minute rule that we're talking about. We won't cancel you if you don't arrive by 5:45, but if you don't arrive by 6:15, the reservation will be canceled. As far as the pool, I believe the pool should be back online tomorrow. And I think, you know, they're doing some demo of some stone to prepare for some windows that haven't arrived yet. But once those windows do arrive, we'll need to shut it down for 2 or 3 more days when they actually put the windows in. But for now, I believe our reopening of the pool should occur tomorrow. Next question. How far in advance do you recommend making dining room reservations? You know, I think if you're going to make during the busiest times, the sooner the better. The busiest times meaning to me 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. or maybe 5 to 7. The sooner you make the reservations, the better. If you want to make a standing reservation, especially, I would go ahead and make those calls. And I'm going to go ahead while I'm on this and tell you that number again for those reservations. And that number is 512-600-7331. Next question, is the dining room menu same as at home menu? Is dinner served on china or current plastic boxes? So the dining room menu will be served on china. We're sanitizing, of course, and the menu is different. It's similar to the bistro menu. It's a little smaller to start because we do have a more limited menu as we start to ramp up for dining room service. Please remember that we're preparing for both menus from this one kitchen right now. So we are limiting the menu, but it's some of your bistro favorites and also some favorites from around the campus. As we go along the next few weeks, we'll start to expand that menu and grow that menu with more selections. After dark and in bad weather, can visits be indoors and where? Yes, the answer to that question is yes. The visits will be limited because we will use the private dining room in the Preston building, possibly the chapel if it gets very busy, my conference room as well. And then also in the Windsor, we'll be using the marketing conference room for a place to visit. For now, we're not going to allow visitation in apartments because we want to monitor social distancing practices and all of that. So, and we'll do those as needed. Can you reserve the private dining room for more than 4? Right now, we're not allowing reservations for the private dining room because we're using that for indoor visitation space. I'll let you know if that changes. What does the new menu look like? I think I've already answered that question. Unfortunately, I didn't provide a copy of it, but it is very similar to the bistro menu. It's a fewer items, of course. It's about half as many, but we'll start to increase the size of the menu as we start to ramp up. Where do we wait if there is a line? Hopefully there won't be a line. The intent is for us to seat people as soon as they arrive. It may be servers meeting the residents as they come into the dining room and taking them to their tables immediately. But if there is a line, you can wait in the Preston lobby. Please make sure that you socially distance them. Next question. Let's see. Could you broadcast the 9 to 9:30 a.m. exercise class on Zoom? It breaks up too often on 1890. We will work on that. I will make sure that maybe it's a recording that we're having issues with, and we'll look into why it's breaking up. And we'll also consider, I think we've gotten enough iPads now that maybe we could consider doing that on a live Zoom call, if that's possible, similar to what we're doing today. How long before we can have smaller meetings in Harris Bell Hall? You should be able to have some smaller meetings if they're 20 or less in Harris Bell Hall. Now, we need to reserve the space through Ruth. If it's an independent resident meeting, they can be scheduled through Ruth, Sunil, and Activities Community Life Services. I would say that we need to make sure we social distance and wear a mask, but that sounds like a resident-led event, which would be okay. This is the same question, but I've already answered, I think. Please clarify the 15-minute rule. For example, is cancellation effective after 5:45? So I answered that. So 15 minutes, if you don't arrive in the dining room and you scheduled a 6 o'clock reservation, if you're not there by 6:15, then that reservation is going to be canceled and it's possible somebody else will be given your seat. Okay. Thank you all very much. It looks like that's the end of our questions. I appreciate you all attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email anytime. It's charlesborst@wmanor.com, or you can call the reception desk. We'll be happy to help you answer any questions that you might have. Please understand that we're learning in many ways as we go along here, and I'm sure that dining services will respond well to the residents, and as they always work hard to meet your needs and exceed your expectations, we'll continue to do that. Be patient with us. So this is a rough time, and it's basically like opening a new restaurant for us. So we ask for your patience, and I think it's going to be great. I'm supposed to try it out tomorrow, so any kinks we have to work out, I'm sure we'll have them worked out by the time you get to the dining room. But if we don't, just let us know what those might be, and we will work on them and do our best to provide you great service as we always do. And I appreciate you all very much. Please stay well, stay healthy and safe. Please help us abide by all the precautions that we have in place that we know are working. There's a lot of spikes in COVID infection, but not here at Westminster. If we can continue to maintain our precautions and restrictions and keep each other safe, I think we can do well continued way and really make progress towards reopening. I hope not to have to go back to a lockdown, which I really didn't like, and I know you didn't like it either. Let's do our best to protect each other. Thank you very much. Till next time. Bye-bye.